Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Steven Semino Says Boom Show, issue number 44.
Wow. Bomb.
Hey everyone, welcome to Pop XP. And before the show starts, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content. And don't forget, if you can, make sure to share our stream on all your social media outlets. We appreciate it, and thanks for helping us grow the Pop XP channel.
Ooh, I'm feeling powerful today. I'm feeling like there's a god coming to crash upon us. Issue 44 with the at the Pop XP with at the on the Steven Semino Says Boom Show. I don't know. Niall, keep it straight because I get a little flustered. You know, I get flustered when I get excited.
It's because we're all getting a little bit cosmic tonight, gentlemen. A little cosmic. But everyone, look below, click that subscribe button, like, share, and smash that bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content like this episode. And without further ado, I'm ready to learn. So, Professor Steve, I know, has got some stuff for us, John.
Oh, God. You know what, Steve, before you go on, we've been having a lot of guests and all that stuff, but I look forward to these little teaching summaries from you because right now, Steve is baby Thanos, but baby Thanos grows into something pretty devastating, pretty scary. So Steve is going to take us on a little journey. So, Mr. Houston, it's all you.
All right. So what are we going to be talking about today? We are going to go back to the Bronze Age. We're going back to the 70s. And we are going to drench ourselves in the world of Jim Starlin. And we are going to be talking about Thanos's second attempt to destroy and maim and become the consort of death herself. Okay, yes. So some of you right now already know, he's talking about Avengers Annual 7 and Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 2. They're two huge, massive stories, but for the sake of space, we're going to do a little recap, of course, of Avengers Annual 7. But we are going to be dealing with Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 2, which contains some incredible scenes and some very powerful stuff, which lasted for 20 years. So we're going to get into that today.
Well, and a lot of these moments, and not just that. Okay, obviously, so many of those moments define the MCU, which you see glimpses of that stuff like spotted throughout the MCU. But also, it's important now because who's a character that's going to be appearing very soon in Guardians of the Galaxy number 3, right? And he makes his. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, we waited a long time for that damn cocoon to open, haven't we? It seems like it's been 100 years. And there was a lot of speculation about what they were going to do, about who was going to come out of that cocoon. However, we are quite fortunate, I think, in this modern era that Marvel seems to have gone the traditional route, and we are going to be having regular Adam Warlock. So basically, he's probably going to come out as his nascent self when he was him. He's not going to be this full Jim Starlin mode. However, we have 2 hours of movie. He may come out like, hey, as an innocent. At the end of the movie, if they're clever, and if those screenwriters have done their job like we have, and they've read this stuff, then they're going to know exactly what he should be wearing, how he should be acting, how he should be talking, and how he thinks. Okay.
Now, Steve, really quick.
going into Jim Starlin's hands.
Yeah. And before we get into it, I just want to say a little backstory on Adam Warlock. Obviously, Roy in what was that? Marvel Premiere, right? Marvel Premiere #1. That Roy revamps him to Adam Warlock. But here's a little something to know. If you notice when you first see Adam Warlock, he has that lightning bolt. Obviously, Roy, always a fan of Captain Marvel, always throwing that little stuff in there. You see that with Titania. Thundra. You know, you'll always see you always see the little lightning bolt stuff. But Starlin hated doing that. So when Roy left the editor-in-chief position, right away that that lightning bolt was gone because he could. It just drove him nuts because it took so much time to do the lightning bolt right. And Roy told me, he goes, I should have had him keep it in there, but he goes, I left as editor-in-chief, and that was one of the first things Starlin wanted to do was get rid of that.
Although I have to admit, where as Thanos' character is fleshed out, and we get to really see him, especially after he starts taking people's souls into his soul gem, that lightning bolt wouldn't work. Too light, too like, hey, I'm Warlock. Because after a while, it's like, I'm Warlock. And it had this gravitas to his character. That little lightning bolt wouldn't work. So I think, the way things happened were perfect.
Perfect. All right. And really one more thing too. I don't know if you know this now, but Mr. Stalin used to go Mr. Engelhart used to like to go to into the where was it? The New York Park there. What was that? And they used to have a little powwow, and sometimes psychedelics were involved in that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So, they had a little they had sometimes these little seances, and then all of a sudden they would get inspiration. And they would each go back to their respective writings. And sometimes when you see those Adam Warlocks with a lot of philosophies and a lot of writings, you know what? Starlin was probably in space with Adam Warlock then. So, okay, Steve, take us on the journey. What do we got?
All right. So, again, we're going to start off with Avengers Annual 7. Well, I'm just going to give a brief rundown of what's been going on. Okay. So it's 1977, and Jim is about to leave Marvel, believe it or not. And what he's doing is he's going to leave on talk about being at the top of his game. Okay, it's going to be the top of his game. And what he's going to do, he's going to finish off some plot points and some stories that he'd been working with for a long time on characters that basically he made his own. Some of them were his, but certain characters like Captain Marvel, which weren't his creation, he put his stamp down so hard that even today, no one can go near Captain Marvel. Okay? No one can go. That's why you don't see Captain Marvel of the Kree. You don't see him anymore because Jim Starlin put the stamp down and said, that's it. He's my character. There's nothing else anyone can do with it. But for the beginning of this story, there's a little sequence in Warlock number 15. Okay. And I think a lot of people may have forgotten. Maybe, let me remind you. There's a little scene where Thanos is on his ship and Gamora is bored. She's like, I want something to do. I can't just sit here with you and your computers. And he's like, I have a mission for you. Why don't you go and keep an eye on Warlock and I will do my stuff. What do you think? And she goes, great. So boom, off she goes. And then there's this little panel where Thanos turns to the screen and goes, finally, now I have peace and quiet so I can prepare for total, stellar genocide. And I remember thinking, bloody hell. Okay. Again.
A lot on his mind. On his mind.
So Avengers Annual 7 opens up basically and starts off with a very sad little sequence where Adam Warlock comes across the broken body of Gamora. And basically he's like, oh my God, what's going on? And she lets him know that Thanos, his plan is this stellar genocide. and that she has faith that he is the only one that can stop him. So basically, in that issue, he sucks her soul into the soul gem. Then he travels to Earth, contacts the Avengers, and say, "Hey guys, have you ever heard of a guy called Thanos?" And they're like, "Yeah, we remember him." And they're like, "Well, he's back, and he's got an even bigger plan. Okay, he's gonna, he wants to do this stellar genocide." And the Avengers are like, "What are you talking about?" Okay, and he's like, "Well, don't worry. I'm gonna need your help. We're gonna go and take on his fleet." Okay, his fleet of what he calls thralls. Because if you're serving Thanos, you don't really have your own mind. You're a thrall. And so basically what happens through that whole annual is one loss after another. It's a magnificent piece. It sort of follows the same, well, using the correct terminology. Infinity War, the movie, takes the same path. The whole movie's going across, and Thanos is just winning and winning and winning and winning. Okay, that's what happens in Avengers Annual 7. He's winning and winning and winning. Avengers Annual 7 also features the death of Pip the Troll in an incredibly powerful moment when Pip tries to laugh off, say, "Hey, we were friends once, right?" And Thanos has got his finger. He's like, "Well, things have changed." The next time you see him, he's brain dead. He's just, I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did to him, but that's the beauty of Jim Starlin. He lets you wonder, what the hell did Thanos do to make him look he's brain dead. So Warlock has to suck his soul into the gem. And then, of course, incredibly, in Avengers Annual 7, Thanos kills Adam Warlock. It's going from bad to worse. All right. So basically, when we get to Marvel 2-in-1 Annual number 2, Gamora is dead. Pip is dead. Warlock is dead. What in the hell is going to happen? The Avengers are going to have to go and fight this guy on his own. Are they not? No, they're not. Again, what a beautiful cover to the Marvel 2-in-1 Annual. Again, one of my favorite little things there, as everyone knows, I'm a Moondragon fanatic. I love Moondragon.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. So I just always love that cover. So we open up on the splash page, and believe it or not, for some strange reason, Peter Parker, not the most cosmic guy in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so but he's having a little dream. He's like, what the hell? In actual fact, he's receiving a communication. Okay, and as you can see, there's the Sanctuary ship in the up ground, and he's basically getting a little recap of everything that happened in Avengers Annual 7. It's a nice little recap, and again, this is what they used to do in the old days. They would never allow you to go into a story not knowing things. Back in those days, Archie Goodwin is obviously the editor, and he's like, guys, okay, give everyone a recap before they get rocking into the story. And this is a great way of doing it. So what basically is happening here is Moondragon is forcing these memories into Peter Parker's head, okay? Because, she's going to need assistance, and for some strange reason, she has chosen Peter Parker. He's not the cosmic guy, but, he tends to get in the way and get things done. So she communicates with him, and then, he sees all of the victories that Thanos is having, and he sees how the Avengers have been captured. Now, this is where this usually drives me nuts, and it took me years to have to get around this, and I'm sure, John, you agree. Thanos is having all these victories, okay? His plan is sound, and then he does this boo-boo. He doesn't kill the Avengers. He puts them in stasis. So if you turn a couple of pages over, okay, there's the flashback sequences to Avengers Annual 7. Everything going up nice and strong right there. Okay, there's Moondragon sending the mission right there. Peter Parker's seeing all of this. And then, boom, there are the Avengers up there very nicely, and they're in stasis. And then, of course, right, what you see is the carcass of Adam Warlock right there. And boom, what does Thanos get? He gets that beautiful soul gem. What he's going to do, he's going to use that soul gem to explode Earth's sun, wiping everyone out. And that's when Peter Parker wakes up like, what the hell am I seeing here? Can this be true? You know, and then he realizes here, it says, I'm no powerhouse like Thor or Star Jumper like Captain Marvel. That's Star Jumper. He goes, I'm only your typical, neighborhood Spider-Man. So next page. Now this is where we get to see some of the power mongers, the secret guys that are working behind the scenes. Okay, that's Lord Order and Master Chaos, and they want to get some. They want Thanos defeated, of course, and need some human agents. So they're like, okay, we have a way of getting some help up to the rest of the Avengers and against Thanos. So they've chosen Peter Parker, of course, and also the Thing. So Peter Parker's like, well, how am I going to get to space? What am I going to do? Let's go and see my buddy Ben. So off he goes. Yeah. And it's hilarious here, by the way. Ben is reading Salem's Lot, which we would see 2 years later on TV, if you guys remember, which is pretty funny. And, the Thing is reading, he's having a little cigar. And then Peter Parker managed to avoid all of the, the security at Baxter Building, and there he is, and things like, what the hell are you doing here? Makes him swallow his cigar. Okay, next page. So Spidey's like trying to explain this massive earth-shattering dream. This thing he's like, oh my God, and the Thing is just talking like, what are you doing here? How come the security didn't work? You know how hard Reed worked on that? Okay, turn the page. So finally, Peter's like, shut up. I need help. We got to go to space. And then, of course, being the Fantastic Four, and Ben's a pilot, all he needs is a ship. And he's like, hey, it just works out that Reed has made me a brand new ship he wants me to test. Okay, I know it's an obvious plot point, but we're going to go with it. If we have Jim starting off the show later on, we can slap him a little bit for that. But up they go. Boom, right up into space. Next page. And there they go. So at first, the Thing is like, oh, what's going to be happening here? Pretty soon, he's like, oh, my word. That dream that you told me about, it really is happening. And by the way, look at that beautiful ship. Look at that beautiful ship right there. Okay, next page. So, again, they think they're smart. They're not that smart. Thanos obviously knows they're coming. He puts a tractor beam. He brings them on the inside. And the Thing bursts out like he always does. He's going to take care of business. But is he going to take care of business? Suddenly, all sorts of weird alien Thanos thralls are all over him. You can see they're attacking. Next page. And the funny thing is that Spidey is left on the sidelines, trying to deal with these little guys, where the Thing is having to deal with these huge, more monstrous beings. And they're actually doing a pretty good job. Beautiful page design there. Look at that beautiful color. Okay, next page.
So good.
But it's not gonna take long. You're not gonna get on Thanos' ship without him knowing about it. Okay. And so he's like, oh my God, look at these insects on my ship. All right, let's take care of this. I haven't got time to deal with this. I haven't got time. First things first is he takes away the gravity. So suddenly the Thing and Spidey are just floating in the air, helpless. Next page. And then boom, Spidey's taken out and the Thing's taken out. Taken out. And Lord Order and Master Chaos are like, oh God, maybe we made a mistake here. Oh God, what are we going to do? And then Lord Order basically says, hey, hold on. They're basically there just for one reason. They're there to set up our true champion so that he can get involved and get things done. And of course, look at that last little panel. Because that there reveals that Adam Warlock, of course, is not dead. He's in Soul World. Okay? He's safely within Soul, the same with Gamora and Pip and a host of other little characters. So he's right there. So somehow they're going to have to get Warlock away out of there and to face Thanos. Next page. Look at this beautiful. Look at this beautiful work. By the way, I love that costume. That is my perfect Warlock costume. If I don't see that in the movie, I will somehow find a way to tear the earth asunder. I'm sorry, guys. Hell to pay if he is
Hate
not
to break
wearing
it to you, then.
the red and gold. If you guys can get off planet, that's fine. Okay. But I'm going to somehow with my bare hands, I'll tear the earth, all the surface of the earth to pieces. But as you can see, Warlock's very calm. He's like, oh, yeah, they're inside Soul World and everything is great. But quickly going back to the real world, next page. There's the Thing and Spidey. They're waking up. And again, when I first read the story, I was like, why aren't they immediately in stasis? Why are they loose? Okay, Thanos is making a boo-boo here. He's showing off a little bit. He's like, look what I've done. I've got the Avengers. They're in stasis. And when you think about it, you have Thor right there. You should have just taken him out immediately. Okay, not had him in stasis. You're just asking for trouble. And years later, Jim Starlin would deal with this subject matter. He would deal with it, and we'll get onto that after the issue. I know it's getting heavy right now. It's getting heavy. All right, next page. All right, so Thanos is telling a story, and Spidey's like, "Okay, hey, why don't you tell us your plan?" And Thanos is like, "Don't do that. Okay, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to spend 4 hours explaining my story so you have a chance to think of a way around or some sneaky way." But this is where, again, Thanos explains that he has a nice plan. Okay, he is going to give a gift to his lover, Mistress Death. And what he's going to do is he's going to use the gem to cause Earth's sun to go nova. And so he's going to give her this beautiful gift. Billions upon billions of souls just going right into her domain. Oh, God, he's going to have such a great time. She's going to be so happy with him. But take a look at the Thing's face. The Thing's like, what the hell? Again, the Thing is used to fighting Fantastic Four type villains. And they may have a grudge against the Fantastic Four. They may be trying to steal some turn. He's up against the person that just wants to kill the entire Earth for a woman. That's all he's up against. So you can see the Thing's face is like, what the hell? And Spidey's not even saying a damn thing. He's completely shocked. All right, next page. All right, now, so Thanos is continuing his story, and the Thing has finally like, you know what? All right, I've had enough of you. Okay, I'm the Thing. I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna give you my Sunday punch, and then this battle's gonna be over. I like here it says, "It's world famous knuckle knockout formula," and then boom. Okay, now everyone here that's watching and sees this knows that when the Thing can basically take out almost anyone. He's taken out the Hulk with that type of punch before. So next page. Oh dear, it's not working. So he's quickly realizing that Thanos is a new level, and especially Spidey is like, what? That's the Thing. I know the Thing. When he hits people, they fall down. Not Thanos. Okay, so what does Spider-Man do? He runs away. As you can see right here, he's like, you know what? I'm just small fry. I'm running away. And, Thanos is like, okay, guards, bring him back to me. Bring him back. Okay, he's just useless. He's just an insect. The Thing's knocked out. Next page. So Spidey's going through. They're trying to catch him. He's flying around, banging between bits of equipment. And while he's doing that, in his mind, he's trying to convince himself of what can he do? He's on this spaceship. He can't just go back home. Okay, he has to do something. And admittedly, right now, he's actually panicking a little bit. This isn't that cool customer Spidey that's making those little jokes. He's panicking. Next page. And while he's panicking, Lord Order and Master Chaos are like, oh, God, come on, man. Let's get going here. Get some sense. Pull yourself together. And basically, Lord Order is basically saying, no, Master Chaos. No. We know the soul of this man. He's going to do what he wants to do. Okay? Now, this is where things start to unravel. And this is what Thanos does to himself every time. Okay? So he has his device, set up so that it can channel the power of the Soul Gem directly into the sun. So what does Spider-Man do? He just jumps right into the device and smashes it right away. So that's okay. Next page. Immediately, he breaks up the stasis field, and again, Thanos is always suddenly faced with all of the Avengers, okay? And, especially Thor, because Thor's pissed right now. Not only that, but the Thing is standing behind him. Thanos is actually in trouble. This plan is running afoul because of a little tiny guy called Spider-Man jumping through and making a mess of things. Next page. Now, of course, anyone else would have been flattened in seconds, but Thanos is actually giving a good account of himself. He calls his thralls in, and they're having this fight. And then the Thing and Thor are going to team up and say, you know what? It's time for us to take the big guy out right there. Okay, next page.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
That looks like our
This is
background.
comic books, dude. This is so comic books.
Yes. Now, of course, for me personally, I'm also very happy that joining the Avengers there, if you look carefully, you see Captain Marvel. I'm a huge fan of Captain Marvel and Jim Starlin's previous run on Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel and Warlock basically had a similar cadence to their characters.
Yeah.
Again, the fact that Captain Marvel is no longer with us, it hurts me every day. But here he is. He's helping out the Avengers. But during this scene right here, the Thing and Thor are going to take care of business. Next page. So while that's going on, of course, you have the Beast flying around. You have Iron Man doing his work. And of course, Captain Marvel and Moondragon. What a panel! I love those guys. So they're doing a good job. They're stopping the Thralls from getting to the Thing and Thor. Next page. Which allows for this. Again, anyone else, if they got hit by the Thing and Thor at the same time, jam pie. Just flattened. Okay? So basically, the tide is turning. All right? And you think, oh, all right. So Thanos he's on the outs. He's going to get beaten pretty soon. Next page. Oh, no. You're not going to beat Thanos like that. That's why I love it. He says, fools! Your combined blows merely serve to gain me the distance needed to turn my destructive eye beams upon you. Die, life-loving simpletons.
Jeez.
Thank you, Jim. Again, utilizing powers, he's got his eye blasts. The Thing is down again. By the way, the Thing is always getting knocked out by Thanos. Take a look at Captain Marvel 26. Spidey's coming to a little bit right now. Next page. So here we go. This is where Lord Order and Master Chaos's plan is. We have to draw Adam Warlock out of the Soul Gem to do one final mission. Okay, and it's going to take an enormous amount of mental power and strength to get him out of there. Okay, and to do that, Spidey has to get back into the business again. Next page. So as you can see, the fight is beginning to turn again. I know, and Spidey gets hit by that Thrall right in the back of the head, and Spidey's like, "Oh God, I think I'm gonna go unconscious any second here." Okay, but he's just swinging his hands around, and finally he makes contact with the Soul Gem, and he smashes it out of the device that Thanos was making. Again, it's always these little details that bring Thanos down. These little details. We'll get into that in a little bit. So he smashes out the gem. Next page. Oh, and out of the gem steps Warlock. And look how powerful he is. He is the embodiment of revenge here. He only has one task right now. Lord Order and Master Chaos's plan to negate Thanos. And the only being who can do it is Adam Warlock. You can see that even Thanos knows right away. Okay, when he says, no, stay back. I mean, how many times do you see Thanos with a facial expression like that? Mm-hmm. What he's looking at right there is sheer death, and there's nothing that he can do about it. Next page. Boom. So Adam Warlock's spirit, his energy being is completely evaporated, but in the course of doing that, he has turned Thanos to stone. And look, he's trapped like that with his arms out, okay? And that expression on his face of sheer horror. And then the Avengers are standing there, Captain Marvel's there, and they're like, oh my word, hey, we won. Yes, they won. But it took the sacrifice of Adam Warlock. And that's what I think that's very clever about this Jim Starlin piece right here. With all of these heroes there. And you'll notice Captain America isn't taking control. And, this was Warlock. This was Warlock's time. And this is a story that had been building for so long. Okay, those of you who have read all those issues up with the Magus and stuff like that, where they had a little team up and they were getting to know each other. And Thanos said, here it is. The culmination of years worth of story plots. Thanos, his plan is defeated. His thralls give up. Next page. So this is like a little sad piece right here. And Captain Marvel is explaining, how he pities Warlock and about how, he seemed to have been around just a short time and his lot in life seems to have been, tied one-on-one with Thanos, and was that really all there is? And then, as you can see, it has that little gravestone right there. Now, of course, with Marvel time, that time doesn't work anymore, 1967 to 77. But we will ignore that. We'll go to the next page. So this is extremely powerful right here. It leads into a whole another storyline later on. So Spidey, he's a little shaken by what's going on. And, he's like, well, wait a minute. What about Warlock? Was that, because Peter Parker is not used to people dying in his fights. Okay. This is something far more significant. It's not like he punched in Dr. Octopus in the face or something like that. This is major serious. But what he doesn't know, of course, as you can see from that little view, inside the Soul Gem world right there, Warlock is quite at peace. He's quite at peace right there. And right here, these last little panels, it says, what of Thanos, Master Order? And he says, he, Lord Chaos, is destined to spend infinity trapped within the petrified form of his own corruption, lamenting the waste he has made of his days and weeping for a love unfulfilled. And unbelievably, there is actually a little tear coming out of this. Which means, wait a minute, his essence is actually inside, like his being is trapped inside. So it's not like he's completely frozen and is, when he wakes up and goes, oh, what's been going on? He's trapped inside there. Okay. So if you take a look at the way he's standing right there, or the way he's being captured, he is dead. Adam Warlock is dead. Pip the Troll is dead. Gamora is dead. Jim Starlin wraps up his stories. He packs up his Marvel bag and goes over to DC. So now, those of you, and I know a lot of people right now are probably screaming at the screen, I read Infinity Gauntlet. Yes, I remember when they came back. Yes. Okay. They stay dead for like 20 years. Yeah. And when I first got involved in Marvel, and I've told this story before where that little kid, Richard Smith, brought that official handbook of the Marvel Universe to school. And I was like, hey, what's this? I was going through, oh, this is the Book of the Dead and Inactive. And I was like, who is that? Who's that? And he, because he was very knowledgeable, but, well, that's Thanos and he's never coming back. He's dead. So I read the thing and I was like, oh my God, I'm only going to be able to see him in back issues? And Richard Smith was like so into himself. He's like, yes, you'll never see him again. I was like, oh my God. Well, that was in 1985. No, 84 actually. And then for those of us who are reading Silver Surfer, we get to issue 34 of Silver Surfer. Thanos is back. And we're like, well, wait a minute, Thanos is back. Okay. And then we see Soul World and that scene that we see right here at the end. Jim Starlin does it again. And of course, the threat is renewed. and the Warlock and Gamora and Pip are going to have to come out of Soul World because, believe it or not, Thanos has an even better, a bigger idea. Okay, now he's going to use all of the gems in the gauntlet, and he's going to kill half of the known universe and give all those souls to Death. Again, still infatuated with Death. But for those of you who have read those Infinity Gauntlets, Infinity Wars, Infinity Crusades, and you haven't read this, please. The stories are easily available. You can get a lot of the great stuff in this. Look at this little baby right here.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Look at that right there. Okay. Thanos Wars. Okay. Infinity Origins. You know, I mean, I don't expect you to go out there and buy all the original issues when you can just do this. And then you can spend months just drenched in the beautiful cosmic Jim Starlin era. So now that we have had that recap of those issues, I am curious, Mr. Cimino, what are your thoughts here?
Okay, number one, the cover. You mentioned the cover. I was going to say something, but you just said it. When I was a kid, that cover was what drew, like, the something with it that screams Marvel Comics, with the faces on the side, the, you know, like the heads, and then just Spider-Man fighting this being. This is the first time I ever saw Thanos too. You saw him in the handbook. I saw this, and okay. I was like, who is that? Like, but really not what they were fighting. I knew Thor was in there, so that got me all giddy. But just to duel a mad god. I mean, it was just such an exciting cover.
What did your young mind think when you saw that little Moondragon picture right there?
What the Moondragon? I kind of went straight for Thor. I did kind of everything else.
You thought Moondragon.
I don't know if I knew Moondragon that well at that time, but it was the cover that totally got me. Now, Once again, this is just a classic Marvel story and the best of Thanos. When Starling came back and he did all that Infinity Gauntlet stuff, yeah, that was nice, but it just did not really appeal to me. It was just, I hated the Smart Hulk that was in it. It was just, it didn't grab me. I know it was the talk of the town, but I was like, because I read those issues. And I want to tell you, I wish it never went further than that. That was such a great, like, it should have been a novel. Like, that was such a great ending of a character and how he died, and it was such a great wrap up of a story. Because when I read that too, and then you see him crying, you were just like, it was so powerful. But little did I know he did stay dead for like 20 years. I mean, it was so.
I mean, in Marvel world, that's forever.
Yeah, that's forever. And they I know Starlin was he's very possessive of his characters. And this is what unfortunately happened. Paul Dini explained it the best about the comic book world, the Marvel comics and DC comics. It's like you're sailing on a ship, and eventually you have to leave port. You do everything nice on that ship. You clean it, you make it nice, you paint it up, but then eventually you have to get off that ship, and that ship is still sailing away. And so other people get on that ship, and then they start coloring it, and they do it stuff too. So you never have control of that. You just have a piece of it, and you don't own that ship, and it keeps going. So Starlin had a lot of problems, especially, I think, Starlin being an emotional guy and very tied to his characters, you can always see that he was always putting his characters in the forefront. And you can even say he's a little biased with his characters, because if you read all his stories, all his characters can match up with the best of the best. And sometimes they're even better. And even he had characters that wasn't too keen on. They were going toe to toe with Hercules and all this stuff. So I could always see that about Starlin. And that was always, I had a little, and it was it always kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong because it was like, come on, Jim, you can't have him fight this guy, but he was very biased. And then, as you know, as he left again, because he's left Marvel. I remember telling Roy, remember when Jim left Marvel? He goes, which time? He said, because he always threw his pencils down and got out of there. So when other people started taking control of Thanos, he would come back, retcon it, because I liked when Khazar beat up Thanos. You didn't like that, Steve? I'm just kidding. When I saw that, I was like, what are you talking about? But he did it for love, Steve. He did it for love. Yeah. Can you easy, Steve?
Just goes to show you where Jim put these characters to bed in these stories.
Yeah.
And for 20 years, no one dared touch it because it was like a story that was on Mount Olympus. It was like, well, what? How can anyone touch this? Now, according to legend, and of course, at some point, I would love to have Jim on this show so he can confirm this.
Yeah.
He got word that Steve Englehart was going to use Thanos and the gems. Somehow, he got word. And apparently, according to legend, he contacted Marvel and said, I have an idea. I have an idea for Thanos. And boom, he comes back to Marvel in, 1989. And then finally, he gets to play with his toys. Okay?
Right.
So that ship, that analogy you said, where the ship is going away, he jumped back on the ship and it was all in status and nothing had changed, which is beautiful.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Go ahead.
But, and then he was able to unleash the Infinity Gauntlet and stuff like that. And by the way, John, on a personal note, there is so much great stuff there, obviously if there's some characters in there that are annoying you, just deal with Thanos and Warlock. That's all you have to do, because he really did. And you're right. And I loved it because the Avengers and Captain America coming along like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And Warlock's like, that's not happening. Let me explain to you what's going to happen. And I love that because usually Captain America comes along. He's like, I'm taking control. I'm doing this. And he was out of his depth completely. And only Jim Starlin knew exactly how his characters should interact with others.
Oh, absolutely.
He didn't have Thanos spending 25 word balloons a la Brian Bendis, okay, speaking about drivel, okay? Mm-hmm. Short little sentences, but cut right to the point. That's how he does it. And of course, I know I'm going to upset a lot of people here right now, but I'm going to say Marvel's current superstar, Jason Aaron.
What's his name? I don't even hear that name.
Yeah, Jason Aaron. He did a Thanos story where it was revealed that Thanos had kids.
Why would he make life? That is so against.
Right there, you got it within 1 second. You got it. Okay, so Jim Starlin's off, over at DC. Jason Aaron is doing this ridiculous story, and I'm thinking. At some point, what he had to do was he had to give up his baby, which he did. Yeah. He did a couple more Thanos stories, but then after that, he basically gave up his baby, and we have had some atrocious Thanos-based stories, which, I know that if you read them, you would grab some dumbbells and smash the world to pieces. I know you would. But
wait, Steve, wait. When Squirrel Girl beat Thanos, and now she uses that as a moniker. That is a moniker from she uses that all the time. Like that's something she says. Well, I beat Thanos. Like, what do you say about that? Like, and that's not been retconned. That is like legit.
Well, what I say is.
God,
readership of Marvel product is some of the lowest it's been since 2001.
Oh God,
mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's probably some of the reasons why. Because someone thinks that's very clever. Someone thinks that's a great idea. Someone thinks that to denigrate your classic villains in such a way is cute and funny. So when people like me and you come along and we have money to buy the entire Marvel line every week, and we don't, because we open up a page and go, oh, Squirrel Girl, I beat Thanos. I'm going to put my money in my wallet and I'm going to walk out of this store. Okay? And the one person out of 100 million that says, I like Squirrel Girl, I think that's a good idea. You got your one sale.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about the rest of us? Okay? That's why we have the beauty. And that's why they keep reprinting stuff like this and making a fortune. Because, by the way, this is $100. And it's sold like wildfire to people like me and John, and also you, Niall. Okay? Because we're like, $100? Boom, give it to me. Are we going to spend $100 on any Squirrel Girl?
Nope.
Is anyone going to spend $100 on anything Squirrel Girl?
Maybe that one person.
Maybe that one person. You know? So, again, we have this majesty. And what hurts even more is when you compare this majesty with what's going on. But the good thing is, there are some people out here right now that are probably watching this show who haven't read this story yet in its entirety. And right now they're probably thinking, okay, the Marvel Toon, when I get it, I want them to rush out. I want them to read the Avengers Annual 7. If they go and buy this, they will also be able to get a chance to read the Captain Marvel stuff with the Cosmic Cube. And if they are not blown away, I don't know what to do.
And what made, really quickly before I pass it to Niall, what made Thanos so interesting when I got to know him in those first issues was that, like, that was never done before, like that obsession for death. Like, he loved her. When we would give flowers to a girl, he'll give her bodies. And the more bodies he gives her, the more he's just trying to impress her. A complete nihilistic view. Brilliant. Like, brilliant. What motivation. We'll just kill everything for love. Crazy.
Yes,
Crazy.
definitely.
Go ahead now. Your turn.
Yeah, I mean, with this issue, man, I really appreciate, and like you guys were saying, Jim knows his characters. He knows how his characters need to interact. And, when you see like Spider-Man, right, you'd almost think like right off the bat, if you haven't read this, that like Spider-Man's probably going to save the day. But he really doesn't. He's like a bait and switch type thing, right?
Yes, he's basically a tool for Order and Master Chaos.
Yeah, and what I loved though about it was just the whole time, you got Thing and you have Spider-Man coming up, right? And you got this powerhouse that is the Thing, who really isn't effective, right? You've got Spider-Man, who's basically scared shitless because he's like, this is not for me. I deal with funny costume thugs, in New York City. This is not my gig. And I actually really appreciated that when reading this issue, that Spider-Man wasn't the big hero and they weren't the big heroes of the book. And the fact that they were just there to get the key. That's it. To get the key, unlock it, and then let all hell unleash. I just, for some reason, man, I really just appreciated the fear that Spider-Man felt. The uncertainties when things thinking like, oh my God, this guy is whacked. I just, the character development actually, and how the story plays out is absolute brilliant. I loved it.
And you know what? Unfortunately, the MCU Thanos wanted to make the world better. Like, like he wanted to make the universe better by getting rid of half of it. And that bothered me because, like I said, it's like, no. He does everything for love, but in such a warped sense that it made him, as cuckoo as he was, where the big thickness when you first saw Thanos gravitated to you. Thanos was just like this, okay, he's this big guy there. But when I started reading him, it was motivations you never saw before. Dr. Doom wanted to rule the world because he knew he could do it better than everybody else. Magneto wanted to rule all the mutants because he could do it better than everybody else. He wanted to have our thing and the humans do their thing. Thanos just wanted to annihilate everybody to impress a girl.
That's it.
Like it was so different. And then how can you not be captivated by that? It was so it was so crazy, like especially when you're reading it for the first time at that time. And Jim Starlin's art was always such a big deal to me. And now to go one more up on you, what you were saying about Starlin, not just that he knows his characters, you can tell Starlin loves his characters. Like those are his, and he puts everything. So you can tell, sometimes you hear about Starlin, it could be a little temperamental, but he's a creator, he's an artist, he's a genius, and he puts everything he has into these characters. So I can sympathize how much he felt for them. Where Roy, when I talked to Roy about that, Roy was always smart. He knew the business so well that, like, I know I don't want to really create that many characters because I know I don't have control over them. I don't own them. Starlin, I thought maybe was a little naive because he puts everything into that, and then as they go off and now he has no control of it, he can't. I know he's proud of what he's done, but I don't think he can pick up a current issue of Thanos and not roll his eyes or maybe throw the thing down the toilet and he doesn't have that control, Roy knew about that, and he knew the dooms of the industry. I think it's sad for somebody like Starlin. It's great that Thanos is the biggest thing in the world. He's known as the creator of Thanos and all that. That's great. He gets the adulation. But he doesn't want anybody else touching those characters. You know that. But unfortunately, like I said, the boat that keeps sailing away, he can just look at it on the pier and it's going, and there's nothing he can do about it. That is the dread of the industry, and that's where those guys from the 70s and the 60s and even the 80s, they never got their just due with payment and all that. They're getting the adulation and the payments now, but like they had to suffer back then. And this goes for Bill Finger. These goes for all the other guys, the Schuster and the Superman creators. I mean, just saying, like, Siegel and Schuster. Like, I mean, how horrible is that? You put everything you have into these characters, and then they're gone. Now don't touch them anymore. And like that's sad. It's tough.
I think and I really think that at some point we have to get Jim on this show, because we've had, of course, Steve Englehart here. We've had Jerry Conway here. Of course, we had Roy Thomas here. But Jim is part of that second wave of creative energy that pushed Marvel on. There was a small stumble at Marvel in like 1969, and a couple of titles had to be cancelled, and it was like things weren't going on. 1970s, like not the best year, title wise, but by 1971, 72, we have new blood coming in, and of course, this goes right into what John said. And maybe they were a little bit naive, these guys. They were coming in and they were giving everything. They loved the Stan and Jack universe, and they had all these ideas. You had people like Marv Wolfman, Len Wein, Steve Englehart, Jerry Conway, Jim Starlin. They're coming in and they're not holding back. And because of that generation, that ilk, we have the MCU today. Marvel is successful as it is today, And as John has said countless times, and I think it's one of the most powerful statements that he's made, is just look how many omnibuses and hardcovers are reprinted all the time from that era, because it's a cash cow. Why is it a cash cow? Because if you package it nicely or do something differently, I'll buy it again, you'll buy it again. Okay, they'll put it in the store and someone can come in and say, hey, I was looking at this. Do you have anything interesting? Yes. You need to read this. And they read it and they're like, oh my God, it took me 2 hours to read that book, not 2 minutes. So I think there are some questions about this era I would love to speak with Jim about. And I think if you compare Annual 7 with Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 2, Annual 7 is a far cleaner piece of work. It's far cleaner. Marvel 2-in-1 in some sections is a little rushed. And it's like, I think he wants to get out of there. He wants to get going and go. And that's fodder for us to get him on this show. We can say, Jim, okay, what happened here? What was going on? We will hopefully manage to pull that off at some point, because there's still so much more meat and potatoes that we can get into. Today, we have given you the story, the basis, where it went, but there's still more to know about the behind the scenes stuff that was going on at the time.
Yeah, and in my last words before Niall will get us out of here, I want to say that, you know, even when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and all that, even Stan Lee was never blind to, he never owned any of those characters. He knew the business, Stan, being in the business for so many years too. But this is where, once again, when you were talking about all those new creators coming into there, under the leadership of Roy Thomas, let's not forget, it was Roy hiring those guys and bringing out the best in those guys at that time. That's why Roy Thomas is so well known. As after Stan Lee, you hear only two names, Roy Thomas and Jim Shooter. Those are the biggest names you hear. And Roy is known for think of all that magic that came out in 71, 72, 73, and 74. Those years that Roy was in the at the power and everybody was going to him. He just knew the people and he let them do their thing. And like I said, they rubbed off on him and you got gold. And,
Yes.
and Roy respected that because he didn't. This is the other thing people don't realize is that, you know, Roy being that fanboy coming in, he had that vision. He understood what the artist needed and he knew what everybody, all those old timers did that was bad. Roy didn't do that with them. He told them, how much freedom did Roy give those guys? He knew, just let them create. I'll do, you know, I'll edit this. Maybe you should add this or that. But he mostly gave it to them. And you had, look at these stories. That's where the power is. The MCU lies right there, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. So now, and wrapping it up, what do you think?
Well, you hit the nail on the head actually there when you said, you know, when the fanboy came in, Roy, because that second wave, think about it, right? You know, when Stan and Kirby are creating all this stuff, the stuff that came before that, there were corny, a lot of corny, you know, comic books out there. Batman was just not our Batman, you know, and things like that. They didn't have that. But Roy and Jim were reading these books that Stan and Jack and stuff were working on. So now they're getting this new foundation, right? They're like the wave of comic book fans now old enough and into the market of making the comics. So now the comic book fans are making the comic books.
Yeah.
The kids that were reading these, their minds are going elsewhere. And through those years of growing, right, they are creating these stories off of what Stan and Jack are doing. And then you get them into actually creating in this cosmic world, and probably those trips to the park help. But, you know, these cosmic worlds and these other new things just envision. And like you said, it's the MCU. It blows up. This was a perfect storm for these guys.
Yeah.
It is incredible.
And really quick, it's funny how you look everything, we look at it today in history, but the perfect people at the perfect time. Stan was never a fan of comics, but he knew Roy was competent enough and he could trust him enough to lead the Marvel comics into the next phase. And Roy was the perfect guy because he was that fan that understood the market. And then, you know, slowly helped bring in Denny O'Neil. He was the guy, Gary Friedrich, you know, those guys, the Gerbers and all that stuff. That was all Roy.
Yes. Yes. Let's not forget, no one else would have hired Steve Gerber. Okay. No one else would have hired Steve Gerber. And Steve Gerber gave us pure magic. Okay. So again, I tip my hat to Roy because I don't think Stan would have hired him that way. But you're right. That next generation of guys that came in and were able to create stuff like this and was a creation of the freedom that Roy was giving them. Yes. So Roy wasn't going in there and micromanaging and saying, by the way, can you rewrite these pages because it doesn't conform with what he didn't do any of that. And so as the years have passed, we've begun to realize just how incredible that 1971, 72, 73, 74 era is. And basically, Roy had the creators And imagine that they had shackles on, and he just went with the key, and he unlocked them and said, "Do what you want to do, guys. I may have to come in every now and again, but get going." And so that allowed their flow of energy and allowed their creative juices to flow. They were never stifled.
Mhm.
That's an important word. Stifled. Okay. And that's what happens today. Everything is stifled. Has to go through lawyers and these editors, and nothing good is being done anymore. Okay. Because it's awful. But this little golden era here, which is responsible for all of those magnificent 1970s characters, okay, and specifically allowing Jim Starlin to write this cosmic epic with his characters and actually do storylines that even Stan and Roy didn't do.
Yeah.
Think about that. Because when we have the Magus coming along and Thanos, okay, has to team up with Warlock, and Warlock knows that Thanos is a raving maniac responsible for the death of millions. But the Magus comes along and it's like, I think we can work together. I think we can. Jim. Again. Now, wonder DC wasn't selling a single book, okay, in 1973. They weren't selling anything. You go and buy an issue of World's Finest, and some dinky donkey characters like creating some sort of weird little
the trickster. The trickster.
They didn't have a chance.
Roy's when the last time Roy and Jim were on a panel together, Roy looked at Starlin, and they were talking about the great cosmic writers, and Roy says to him, "You know, Jim, I think you're the best cosmic writer ever." And Jim looks to him and he goes, "Thank you, Roy. Like, thank you." He was so humbled. But Roy said that to him on the panel, and I was sitting right next to Jim Salicrup and Dan Thomas, and I was like, "Is this the greatest thing ever?" Roy Thomas on the Mount Rushmore of Marvel. If you don't think so, you're nuts. Let's get us out of here, Steve.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Get out there and start reading some cosmic. Boom!
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you soon.